Hi, my name is Julia, and I have a goal of reading 32 books in 2023. I love reading. I'm a huge reader. I've had a reading goal for at least the past 4 years, and I decided that I wanted to show you all the books that I'm reading this year, give you a little synopsis about what they're about, tell you what I thought, but I realized doing 32 book reviews all in one video would kind of be a lot. So I decided I will do 4 videos this year, one every quarter, talking about the books that I've read over the past 3 months. So this is going to be the first of 4 videos for what I'm reading in 2023. All right, it is January 2nd, 2023. I just finished my first book of the year. I started it in the last week of December, but I just finished it today. It is called Uncultured by Daniella Mestyanek. I think I'm pronouncing her name right. It is a memoir about her upbringing in the Children of God cult, which is also called The Family. It's the same thing if you've heard of either of those. She also talks about her time out of the cult, which she left when she was 15 years old. So she talks a bit about her education and then significantly about her time spent in the US military on deployment in Afghanistan. I'm really into cults, especially religious cults. So from that perspective, it was super interesting to me. What was sort of unexpected for me was the connections she drew between her time in the cult and her experience in the military. Trigger warning, both parts of the book focus a lot on trauma and sexual abuse and sexual violence. So just know if you're interested in reading this book, that is what it is about. But overall, I really enjoyed this one. Number 1, done. It's January 6th. I just finished my second book of the year this morning. It's called The Subtle Knife by Philip Pullman. It's the second book in the Golden Compass / His Dark Materials trilogy. I read the first book at the end of 2022. They're young adult fantasy, but if I'm being totally honest, I tried to read the first book when I was in middle school and I could not understand anything that was going on, which was honestly kind of embarrassing for me. I was always a really good reader, and there's this group of girls that was really into it, and so I tried to read it and I had to put it down. I had no idea what was going on, but now I'm reading them as an adult. So I just finished the second one. It was good. I liked it. I definitely liked the first book more. I think the best part of The Subtle Knife, the second book, was the very, very end. But I liked it. I'm gonna read the third one later this year for sure. Last night I finished my third book of the year before bed. It's December 8th. And that one was Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing by Matthew Perry. Friends went off the air when I was in 7th grade, I think. And somehow even then I knew that Matthew Perry struggled with drugs or alcohol or something. I don't know what I knew. I don't know how I knew, but obviously I did not know the extent of it until I read this book. I didn't have a lot of expectations for this one, so I was pretty impressed. I was really floored at just some of the battles that he fought, the level of his addiction, but also his candor and the way that he really opened up so naturally when it seems that that is something that he really resisted his entire life. It's a part of his life that he kept very, very private for very many years. So, you know, even his closest friends didn't know. So I was impressed by the way that he really did sort of let the audience into that place that was very, very private and personal. Even if you're not into celebrity memoirs, I still think this is a good read. I didn't totally love the cadence of his writing, but the content definitely made up for it. I thought it was pretty good. January 16th, book number 4, Hidden Valley Road by Robert Kolker. Really, really good book. It is the story of the Galvin family, an American family that had 6 of their 12 children diagnosed with schizophrenia. So it's some super heavy stuff, but it follows the story of this family and sort of the trauma and illness and everything that was wrapped up in that, as well as, you know, how it impacted the lives of the parents, how it impacted the other 6 children. And throughout the book, there's sort of this thread that is woven that talks about the evolution of the science of understanding schizophrenia and the treatment available and the research that was being done. I thought it was incredibly well written. I really, really like the story. Obviously, it is very heavy. Lots of trauma, lots of violence, and
a lot of bad stuff.
Thank you. A lot of bad stuff that happened to this family. A lot of bad stuff that happened to the other children, and just, you know, a crazy life that they all lived. And the book finishes close to present day, I think 2017 or 2018. So highly recommend if that is the genre that you enjoy, like me. Are you a self-help junkie? Do you consume productivity advice like it's your job? Do you believe that you can do anything with a little bit of hard work and determination? Then you should read Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. Because it turns out that most of what makes exceptional people exceptional is completely out of their control. This book was so interesting. It takes a research-oriented approach to dissecting topics like why professional athletes are so good at their sport, or how cultural communication norms can impact a pilot's likelihood of crashing an airplane. There's so much that goes unspoken about the conditions that create outliers, or these super exceptional people or circumstances, and Gladwell does a really great job of highlighting some of those things that just impact us way more than we realize they do. Oh yeah, it's January 20th, and this is my 5th book of the year. Hello, February 15th, book number 6. It is called Cultish, The Language of Fanaticism by Amanda Montell. If you are a fan of cults or language and linguistics, this is a must read. She talks not only about religious cults and cults in the way that we traditionally think about them as these really scary, dangerous, violent, manipulative groups with evil leaders, but also things like MLM, multi-level marketing companies, or fitness cults like CrossFit or Peloton and SoulCycle, things like that. She talks about the way that cults use language to bring members in, to build members up, and then sort of to keep them trapped in something that is not good for them. Highly recommend. Today is March 3rd, 2023. I just finished book number 7 of the year. It is called Stolen Focus: Why You Can't Pay Attention and How to Think Deeply Again by Johann. This one was so eye-opening, really, really well written. Hari talks about the crisis that we face with our collective attention as a society crumbling. He talks through many of the causes, from technology to medication to diet and exercise and all of these really complex things. What I particularly liked about this book is that he doesn't just sort of pick a solution, pick a data set, and present it as here's what we need to do in the future. He really does a great job at presenting all of the data that is out right now and showing where there are conflicts, showing where the experts disagree, and showing that this is a kind of controversial subject, and especially controversial in terms of how we can do better and get our attention back. One of the things that I really liked about this book is that the entire thing sort of comes back at the end to talk about why this is so dangerous for us as a society. Really, our distraction is allowing for destruction. We are unable to focus on issues like the climate crisis and find actual solutions because there is so much noise. The way that our world is set up right now is to draw us into things that waste our time, deteriorate our ability to pay attention, and even to think critically, to make assessments, to trust scientists. All of this is directly connected to our focus. At the end of the book, Hari provides a lot of resources to connect with groups that are already working on addressing a lot of these causes, from nutrition to ADHD diagnosis and management, to letting kids have unsupervised, unstructured playtime, to adults being able to unplug and disconnect. He also talks about how we need an attention rebellion. We are in an attention crisis, and he feels like we need to, as a collective, wake up to this issue and make some real changes. So I was really moved by this book. It was so interesting to me, and I highly recommend that everybody read or listen to this book. It was kind of life-changing for me. So that was book number 7 of 2023. It's March 8th. I finished book number 8 last night. It is How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. What to say about this one? It was kitschy, it was camp, it was weird, it was kind of scary. The characters were like not super likable. It's unlike anything I've read before. Did I like it? I don't know, but I did stay up 2 hours past my bedtime to finish reading it on a work night, so there's that. I honestly don't even know how to describe this one, to tell you what it's about. It is literally about trying to sell a haunted house. It is about family relationships. It is about a haunting. It's a weird mystery. I don't know, I read it in 2.5 days, so number 8 is done. Today's March 11th. I just finished book number 9. It is by Rodsky, and it is called Fair Play, a game-changing solution for when you have too much to do and more life to live. This one was okay. It is a system that Rodsky developed to more equitably divide household and child raising responsibilities between couples, primarily heterosexual couples. There were some things in the system that I don't see as realistic. Some things just seem like more work than they need to be to divide up tasks. I will say though that there were several parts of this system that I really liked. For one, she focuses on CPE, so for every task that you own, you're responsible for the conceptualization, the planning, and the execution. I also liked, she talks about establishing a minimum standard of care between you and your partner. So that means that for each task, you together decide how that should be done, like what is the minimum standard that it should be. And that is both reasonable to you, but reasonable sort of to an outsider in our culture. So those were two things that I did like about it. And I did appreciate that at the end of the book, she hones in on one topic that she talks about, which is called unicorn space, which I think is an incredibly cheesy name for something. But the idea behind it is that each partner needs time dedicated for themselves in something that they are passionate about, but that is something that is also shared with other people. So examples that she used were like joining a running club, playing music or singing, if that is something that you're passionate about, or even just sharing your love of cooking or baking with your children and bringing them into the kitchen with you. The book is definitely geared towards adults with children. I am not at that point in my life, but I do see the value of hammering some of these things out before my husband and I have children, so that we have a system that works for us and we're not just like constantly in a state of chaos, because that is one thing that I try to avoid in my life. I like things to be a little calmer. So Fair Play, it was fine. I'll definitely take things from it, but I don't think I'll be implementing the system that the author proposes in full. Hello again, it's March 16th. This morning I finished book number 10 of the year. It is called I'll Be Gone in the Dark, One Woman's Obsessive Search for the Golden State Killer by McNamara. If you have any interest in true crime, you've probably heard about this one. And if you haven't read it, I highly suggest that you do. It was, I mean, yeah, as the subtitle says, it chronicles not only the history of the Golden State Killer, but also McNamara's obsession with finding him. Sadly, she died both before she finished writing the book and before he was eventually identified and arrested. And that actually becomes part of the story. The version of the book that I have does talk about, at the very end, that last part of him being identified. Even still, it is written into the book parts that were reconstructed from her notes or things that were taken from preliminary drafts that she had written. She really was just quite in the middle of writing the book when she died. I highly recommend. It was a really good read. It's not so much blood and gore as the unraveling of a very complicated story. So, book number 10, done. Hello, it is March 21st. I finished book number 11. It is called The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This was a really good book. It's a young adult novel, but the themes are not immature. The book is from the perspective of Star, a 16-year-old black girl who witnesses the murder of a childhood friend at the hand of a white police officer. And she also attends a private school in a rich white neighborhood. So it focuses on themes of identity, of police violence, of community, of really subtle racism. And Star sort of works throughout the book to find her voice, to find herself, and use the strengths that she has to make an impact in the lives of everyone around her, not just the community that she's from, but also the people that she goes to school with who have a lot of preconceived notions about the kind of community where she comes from. So I highly recommend. It was a pretty quick read for me, only took me a couple of days, but like I said, the content was there. This was a really great read. Highly recommend. Hello, it is March 24th. This morning I finished book number 12. It is called Being Lolita by Alisson Wood. This is a memoir about Alisson's time as a high school student and early in her college career, basically being groomed by a teacher at her high school. She was in a relationship with him that at the time she did not realize was non-consensual. She did not realize that it was not a loving relationship. She did not realize that it was abusive. And sort of the story of how she came to realize that this was not what she wanted for herself, that it didn't feel fulfilling in the ways that she thought it was supposed to. I would definitely recommend this memoir, but I would recommend reading at least like the spark notes of Lolita before you read Being Lolita. The novel is a central theme of their relationship, and she does a really good job of explaining the parts that are relevant. But as somebody who's never read it or even seen any of the film adaptations, I think that I would have had a better grip on some of the themes if I had informed myself a little bit better about those themes before I read this book. But this was a really, really compelling read. I think it was really quite moving the way she wraps up the book, which is basically just to review her life, not just when it was in that relationship, but since then, and how it shaped her in ways that she is still sort of uncovering. And especially as an educator now, how she sees very clear boundaries about what is and isn't appropriate for a relationship with a student. Being Lolita, highly recommend. This was a great read. And that is what I read in the first 3 months of 2023. Have you read any of these? What did you think of them? Let me know in the comments down below, and also let me know if you have any recommendations that I should add to my list. I love adding books to my list. I'll have another video out in a few months about the next few months of books that I've been reading, but if you don't want to wait that long to find out what I've been reading, you can follow me on Goodreads. I'm always updating the books that I'm currently reading, and I will leave a link to that in the description down below. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.